So hey guys, I'm here with Soham today, and we're gonna be talking about some stuff that, in fact, I told you guys about. So hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for
What's
having
been
me.
happening?
Well, it feels like everybody's forgotten there's a pandemic going on.
Oh yeah.
Does it feel that way to you? Like I came
Definitely.
here, I was wearing my mask, everything, and as I'm walking in, like half the people are just like, yeah, whatever. One guy gave me a dirty look for wearing a mask, and I'm just like, global pandemic.
I haven't gotten dirty looks, but with everything that has been going on, especially since yesterday, oh my god, I really think like people have forgotten that there is a pandemic
Yeah.
and we were in a lockdown and like we are supposed to like still maintain like that level of public distance
Social
and social
distancing.
distancing and everything, but
Modi ji
well,
talks about social distancing in Hindi. Do you remember what it was?
not really. 'Cause
There's like a Hindi term for it. I remember reading it the first time and going like, I love this, I'm going to remember this, and then I forgot it.
well, that's a lot of things what Modi ji says people forget.
I love listening to Man Ki Baat. Like, I have my issues with Modi ji,
Yeah.
but I love listening to Man Ki Baat because he's a fantastic orator. And like half the time, especially when I'm sitting with my mom and my sister, they like look at me and just be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Wait, I'll tell you. Where's my dictionary?
I only studied Hindi till 10th standard, but okay.
You did? A lot of people in Bombay haven't. Like, they've studied Hindi till the 8th.
Yeah, so like if you go to certain schools, like I went to a Gujarati school,
Okay.
and so for us it was like you could either do Hindi as your second language, so you had to take till 10th, or you could do Gujarati as your second language and take that till 10th.
So you took
So
Hindi?
I took Hindi because my dad's Gujarati. My mom put me in Gujarati classes in first standard. I came home crying, going, I don't know what the hell this is. Like this teacher just started like talking in Gujarati, and everybody seemed to understand that. My mom was like, yeah, it's because these kids come from homes where they speak Gujarati.
Yeah.
So they have a conversational
And
understanding.
you guys
of, like,
speak
nothing.
mostly English?
Just
at home?
English.
Yeah.
And like my dad sometimes yells at us in Hindi.
Fair enough. Anger always comes out in
Anger
Hindi.
brings out
the
Mom-
desi.
Mom yells at us in Sindhi.
So that's like
I
where
can
she
actually
connects
speak
from
Sindhi.
herself, from within.
Kya kare pyo charo mo.
Well, I was in Campaign, so like, and me coming from Delhi, I had this very big issue. I used to converse a lot in Hindi.
Yeah, it's a very Delhi thing.
Yeah, so as soon as I entered my school, everyone was like, hey, Ghati. Stop talking to us in Hindi. I was like, what?
The funny thing is, it's after I went abroad, because I went abroad after 10th to do for boarding and then for university. And that's actually when I got more in touch with Hindi language and Hindi literature. I actually voluntarily wanted to read Hindi literature because I was like, it's mine.
Because you're so far away.
You're so far away, you
It's-
just want to feel connected. Like, I really
I
understood.
totally get that.
But it's when you're here, you're just like, oh, we're gonna read Premchand.
Because I guess a lot of people they say that sometimes you don't visit those places where you live. Like for example, like I'll never go to Gateway of India.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
have
Same.
do a chill time. Maybe like somebody who's never been to Bombay but once has been there.
And I went and stopped at Worli Seaface even though they're not supposed, like on the
like
sea
on the
lane.
sea lane, done pictures and stuff. Like,
And we just look at them and be like, ugh, shit.
and we do the same when we go there. I guess when you're a tourist, it's allowed.
You tourists, well, I don't know if I'll ever be back. So anyway.
But your experience in India last 2 years, how has it been? Because when I know you were practicing in Singapore, and
Okay, so I'll just introduce myself. So,
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Soham, and so I am not anymore, but I am a qualified lawyer. I'm registered on the roll of solicitors in England and Wales, to be specific. I'm not an Indian lawyer, so if anybody finds me, don't ask me questions. I legally
like
can't
he hasn't
give you
given the
advice.
bar yet, guys.
I haven't given the bar in India voluntarily. I don't want to practice law in India, but I am English qualified. I was born and brought up in Bombay, and my parents sent me to boarding school when I was 16. I did my 11th and 12th abroad. Went to university in England at the London School of Economics. Got my law degree. Then I worked in England. I worked in Thailand. I worked in Singapore. I worked in Dubai. And then about 2 months before the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to try something else. So I came home to try and like find myself because no amount of traveling all over the world seemed to help me do it. And then I proceeded to sit at home for it.
And what have you been up to? I've heard you've been like getting into some production and writing and finding scripts.
But the beauty of it is like that. So we run a production house, and so I'm sort of getting into that a little bit. But it's sort of just a lot of like self-searching and sort of like figuring out like, well, now what? And that's the beauty of 2020, right? Everybody was stuck at home to try and figure out, do I like myself?
You know, it's so strange. So many people have actually that I know have actually come up to me and said that, dude, 2020 for us was a blessing.
Yeah,
It was like a blessing in disguise. I was like, how? Like, bro, sitting at home, like, bro, whatever they used to call it, like, sitting at home, we have nothing to do. So we were just thinking what to do with ourselves. And, well, I guess it was somewhat needed after that rat race sort of mentality that has been going on in our, like everywhere.
Like for me, I'm not one of those people who can really do nothing for extended periods of time. Like I get really down on myself. I start getting into like depressive spaces. So like for me, it was really important to like at least feel like I was doing something. So then, like I think all through April and May, I ran through 2 online screenwriting programs. I started writing scripts. The first 2 were like so pathetic, nobody will ever see them. Then after that, the third one, I felt a little more confident, like taking it out, like showing it. And I realized like, oh, okay, there's something here. And then it sort of like went from there. I did so like Harvard for a while, like made a lot of online courses free.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing like 2 courses on ethics and morality.
Oh, okay.
I just basically anything to fill up my time. I read 65 novels last year. You can open my Goodreads.
Are you serious? 65?
65 novels. So far this year, right, we're 27 days into 2021 and I've read 9 books so far.
I honestly feel like I've done nothing with my life so far.
Like for me, it's just like, it's just like,
I must have read what, 10?
try audiobooks. Really, just try audiobooks.
That's what I'm talking about. I must have heard 10. That's it, max.
Like
I can't read. I start reading, I pass out.
Yeah, no, so for me, I like put on the headphones, I'll go to the gym. And I usually go for like 90 minutes to 2 hours. Right? Because I like to peacefully get through my weight training and then I go and I'll do like maybe 40-45 minutes of cardio. If the weather's nice like it is right now, I'll go out for a walk or I'll just get on the treadmill or do something.
But health has been like pretty much on point.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I've gained a lot of weight during the pandemic. But
it doesn't seem like...
For me it is.
Fair enough.
Like I've gained like a solid like 7 kilos in the pandemic.
Well, it's the pandemic.
I like think everybody's gained weight, so it's fine. We're all fat and unhappy.
So since I have you here today with me, and we've been talking about getting this podcast version.
I'm so glad you're finally doing this. I mean, I think I first heard about this 6 months ago.
Maybe a year.
Maybe. And I was like, is he really gonna do this? Like, is he? But like, okay, it's like official. There's like a recorder, and like you managed to silence your dogs. But that's how I know it's like serious.
Like you'll probably see them in frame, like at some point.
Yeah.
So don't mind.
Huge dogs.
No, but you know, again, since the pandemic started and how you said like, you know, it's really tough to not do anything. And also after finishing my law, I was like, I really didn't want to practice it. And after the pandemic started, like the whole thing of, you know, going to a court, finding a case, standing there in line, you know, all that excitement was anyways gone. Like, you know, things had changed. My dad was like, okay, sit in that office, like, you know, I'll make you like learn work like that and this and that.
You don't, like the going to court bit, if you're going to court is, okay.
So like how my brother-in-law started in India. So he didn't have any backing. Like, so he just went to Tis Hazari ke bahar he used to stand. And
that's how you do, that's like literally starting from the bottom.
I wanted to do that.
I
wanted, because that's the fun of it. You know, see, obviously, like, I wouldn't say, okay, fair, that'd be wrong if I say that I'm not privileged. I'm slightly privileged when it comes to the like legal background in India, slightly. Like, you know, I know that, you know, if I want to get somewhere or in some office, I would have gotten into it. But the whole excitement and the fun of like, you know, just doing the rut work, I mean, that's one reason why.
There's no escaping the rut work. There's no escaping that. The only
The
choice
pandemic made me escape it
The
for a bit.
only choice is, do you want to do the rut work under sweltering heat, or do you want to do the rut work in an air-conditioned office? There's no escaping it.
Fair enough, fair enough. No,
I chose to do it in an air-conditioned office,
Radog is Radog.
but it was still awful.
No, but because this pandemic hit and everything was like, just so like out there, and plus, since our topic also is going to be revolving around that, how we've been taking in content, how we've been watching, say, news channels, how our youngsters today are in fact going away from watching news channels and towards like these YouTubers and Instagram celebrities.
Why?
And why? Because so that again, this topic came up through everything what we went last
I think
year.
to distill it, it's, how do we deal with the issue of fake news, which I think has just permeated everyone's minds, and we just don't trust
We don't
news
trust
channels,
news channels,
newspapers.
and we don't know what the correct
How
way
do
to
you
get
discern?
information.
How do you get, what is the best way to get information that is reliable?
Like, for example, yesterday. Now, since we are shooting a day after the Republic Day, and as you all know what happened yesterday in the capital, which was pathetic, and so I was watching. I saw two different news channels. I'm not gonna name them, and just the narration that was given. Like, if you would have seen the video on mute, I'm telling you for sure, you would have taken a different picture out of it, seen, yeah, okay, there was violence happening, this happened, this happened, this happened. But as soon as you put it off mute, you get this, there's this narration going on. Like, they're not telling you, oh, violence is going on. They're saying, oh, this guy did this. Oh, they are doing this. They are doing it against your country. Just the whole narration was, the narrative was like, okay, they want me to understand this particular fact. Now, one thing that I actually did take from yesterday's thing, okay, I'm not gonna compare what happened yesterday to Black Lives Matter or anything like that, but
You can compare it to the Capitol riots that happened in the US.
I don't want to do that either. Why? I'll tell you. Because see,
Well, it wasn't an insurrection.
topics might be different, things might be different, but people somewhere or the other on the base, like skin color, whatever, are pretty much the same. When riots do happen, like even Black Lives Matter did happen, there were a lot of police stations that got burnt up and this and that. A lot of violence had happened, like in between. And you could say that there were bad elements, and that's what everybody did say, there were bad elements. But if you remember how, like, for example, there Fox News and like all those news channels which were like more central controlled, you can say how they were portraying things. There was always a narrative going. So yesterday, now I had personally gone for the farmers movement to Delhi, and I'll be putting up pictures for you guys to see. I was there for an hour and a half. I drove through the whole stretch. I didn't see a single camera. I didn't see a single news reporter. I didn't see a single there was nobody there. There was just farmers and farmers and farmers, and it was peaceful. For 2 months, a protest that was peaceful suddenly turned like out this violent. Like 12 o'clock, they were supposed to start. They started at 8 in the morning. They completely ransacked the Red Fort. They took the Jhanda out. They threw it away, which was, it's just so bad to watch, and especially on Republic Day, on the day our Constitution was born. Like, it's just pathetic. But at the same time, when I was watching the news, rather than feeling bad about that, I was feeling bad like, you can't cancel out that peaceful protest that happened for the 59 days before, because if they really were violent farmers, all of them, they would have been violent from day one. And they wouldn't have sat down in the winter, the Delhi winter, bro. It's like literally 1-2 degrees over there, and maybe towards that highway, it's even lesser. These guys were just sitting on their bare asses, and they were just listening, and they were talking to each other. And I saw that there was not even a single element of, like, you could see that, oh, maybe this would turn into a violent thing. But what happened yesterday? Oh my god, like, people dying, tractors running into barricades, and 83 cops were injured. But then again, this I'm telling you because I was literally watching it on mute. The next 20 minutes when I saw, I think everybody knows who I'm talking about at this point. when I 20 minutes I saw that channel and the way that these guys were debating, it felt like, brother, it felt like we've just forgotten that we are in a civilization. Like, you know, the way these guys were talking, it was like, हमने बहुत सह लिया है, हमने बहुत सह लिया है किसानों के नाम पे and ये this and that. हमने as if like they are sitting over there and you know, just that they're turning an angry crowd into a mob.
Yeah.
Basically. And that is what I hate about today, the way we are getting our information. And especially in India, bro. You take most of the channels.
I think the problem is that news in this country and pretty much all over the world has turned into entertainment. News used to be, you know, you used to have those BBC reporters who would come on in their very boring, monotone voice. They would deliver what had happened. There would be no inflection, there would be next to no emotion. In fact, showing emotion was a problem.
Yeah.
And they would just inform you, this is the facts, these are the facts, and that's it. And we lived in a world where people agreed on what the facts were. Then there was the birth of the 24-hour news channels, which meant now suddenly you had these news networks that had to create content that had to keep going 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And if one news channel picked it up, another one had to pick it up because now someone else.
Competition.
And so suddenly you entered a situation where the news channels exist to provide entertainment rather than to necessarily, like delivering the news is still important, but it's kind of like down in terms of list of priorities. That's where it started. That's all the genesis of why this whole thing has gone completely out of control.
I mean, if you watch an episode of Our Bharat, I watch an episode of Ek Takboor, I'm pretty sure you're coming back to Our Bharat today. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You'll be like, dude, I get everything from that one episode. Like, I get anger, I get almost violence, I get like, you know, it's just everything is like, I get abuses, I get love, I get everything. And I get chapalusi also, like, you know, like.
But the thing is, right, if you look at news channels, that's one place where a lot of people in India get their news. The most of our youth gets its news off of Facebook and Twitter. They just do. Facebook has become a center of this major disinformation campaign.
Do you
where
really?
we
It's
just-
a pandemic of its own.
Yes, it's a
Especially
pandemic of disinformation.
Especially when it comes to, as you said, youngsters getting their information from Twitter and Instagram.
But then you are, I mean, youngsters, we're talking as if we're like 50 years old. Like you and I as well. Let me ask you this. Would you rather just read like a quick article on Facebook or read a quick update on Twitter or sit down and listen to Arnab Goswami with 50 people on his 1 hour program just screaming at each other?
No.
Like,
if I listen to him,
I tried, my mom watches.
my next day goes depressed, bro.
Yeah. My mom watches him every night. It's like a religion for her. And I tried sitting next to her like because I want to be informed. I want to know what's going on. But they just start screaming. And after about 15 minutes, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. This is just giving me a headache.
Yeah, like yes, I was watching it yesterday for 10 minutes, and this guy is like talking Hindi because Arnab starts talking in English, and this guy was a kisan. He's like, Hindi में बात करो, तुम मुझसे English में क्यों बोल रहे हो? I can't even answer. Now on that, these guys started abusing each other कि भारत मेरी country है, मैं जिस भाषा में बात करूँगा. For 15 minutes, I wanted to know about the riots, brother.
Yeah.
I had to change channels. I was like, okay, let's just go somewhere else and see what's happening. Like, you know, these guys are just abusing each other for what?
No, so it's
Their TRPs are the highest.
yeah, it's news entertainment. It's news entertainment. And then, you know, there have been cases. So, for example, one of the major ones that came up, which, I mean, this case has only become this example because it was such an extreme example. So, I think the case was maybe last year or a few years before that, the Sudarshan TV case. So, what happened in that was you had Sudarshan TV, which I think is in Uttar Pradesh, I'm not sure. But they were airing a series of episodes, a short mini-series type news program. And I think they called it UPSC Jihad. And they were basically doing a program which was talking about how Muslims are infiltrating the UPSC. And that this is a whole conspiracy, you know, the tracks that they go down. And so a lot of people came in, petitioners came in, they went to the courts and they said, you can't move ahead with this. And so it created this issue where it said, yes, the press has to be free and freedom of speech is a fundamental tenet of our democracy. But on the other hand, we can't support the dissemination of this kind of media that does nothing but spread communal hatred and communal division. Because this program was proving nothing. I mean, these candidates who were getting through, whichever community they were from, they were going through the same entrance exams. I mean, the UPSC is one of the few things in our country that is literally like, it's very standardized. You go through the same entrance exams, you go through the same panel of interviewers, and you have to shine or you don't.
It's quite tough. Yeah.
It's very tough, as it should be, because these people become our leaders. Now, if certain communities or certain places are having more candidates go through, it's a trend, it's happening. They've organized in a way that that's mere happening. Whatever. But they created this program that was basically just awful and spinning all sorts of conspiracy theories. And if you go and you read the Supreme Court judgment, opinion on the whole thing, they did let it stand. They refused to give an order of prior restraint. That is that no, you can air the program, but it was a very divided and difficult decision, because they had to basically say like you're stoking communal violence.
Yeah, you are.
And so then the question then was like,
to.
but then the question became like, what's your agenda? Is your agenda to deliver the news, or is it your agenda to stoke communal violence, to stoke communal division? And that is the problem. You have a lot of channels that are coming up, especially in a lot of states, individual state channels that only provide news for those states. We have loads of those.
Especially in India, like if you think about it, the northern part of India is so disconnected to the southern part of India. They don't even understand the language.
No, and we don't understand theirs.
We don't understand theirs, and the only way they can converse to us is English. And if you actually see, only the high class people down there actually understand English. Like most of the Tamil and Karnataka
people.
You
go to Kerala, you'll be fine with English.
1 or 2 places out of 20, it's like that. Like, you know.
No, I was in Kerala. Fruit vendors also spoke to me in English.
I've been to a couple of places down south, and language was a bit of an issue.
I mean, it was like being in a foreign country in some respects.
Yeah, like some people didn't even understand my English.
Yeah, no. So then the point is, you have all these like divergent news channels, and not all of their agenda is like their main agenda should be to responsibly deliver the news. It's not. A lot of them, owners of these channels, who set them up for the express purpose of spreading disinformation, or at least that is one of the key priorities, or it is to stoke communal violence, or it is to push a particular agenda of saying whether it's Hindutva, whether it's pushing up another community, whatever it is. And so that's where we've sort of lost our way, and that is where disinformation has become such a major issue.
Don't you think that that's something like I feel the way we get our information, it's very much controlled by the center. Especially in our country. Like, even if you pick up, say, America today, if there's one channel talking good about the president, there's one channel who's talking, who's criticizing, you know, keeping him
in check.
Like, in check. Like how, say, in the British government, there's this rule, like next to the Prime Minister, the opposing party
heads.
The
of the opposition sits
right. So, funny thing, India took that out of our constitution. I don't know why. Like, we copied our constitution from these guys. Most of it.
Didn't.
Like, a lot of laws did come from them.
No, a lot of laws do, particularly on the commercial side.
Yeah.
But parliamentary rules of procedure and stuff, we actually have one of the best, because we took what Dr. Ambedkar, I think, and his team felt were the best parts of the parliamentary system and the US constitutional system and
combined them. But also, if you think about it, they took out how this keeping in check part they took out.
Well, that's
Why?
just it. The opposition still exists.
They still exist, but they're not allowed inside. Like, you really think the guy who controls, like right now, especially in our country, is gonna let the opposition party near his dealings, near his whatever they are doing? Dude, we did not know about China and what was going on in China for a year. And then, while China was going on, the only thing that was on the TV channel was Sushant Singh Rajput. Brother, I went to Delhi, I landed, my driver had to come, pick me up from the airport, and he's like, भैया, आपके बॉम्बे में क्या हो रहा है? वो दीपिका मैडम को मैंने सुना लेकर गए. मैंने कहा यार, he doesn't. I thought मेरी दीपिका मैडम, and I was like, इंडिया चाइना की यहाँ लड़ाई होने वाली है, इनको दीपिका मैडम
यहाँ पैंडेमिक के बीच में वॉर शुरू हो रहा है
हाँ
और इनको दीपिका मैडम से पड़
oh my god, what these guys are doing. So, because again, how you were saying that since they became like a 24-hour network and now they're into the business of creating content, not finding and telling you what's going on. Now they're creating it. They are making their car drive behind Deepika's car and that reporter is shouting at her, Deepika, Deepika, aapko kya hua? Her windows are up. You really think she's gonna reply? I'm gonna put that clip out as well.
Is that no, this has always been the case. So like 10 years ago, when the more than 10 years ago, when the Ash and Abhishek wedding was going on, I remember being completely like blown out of my mind because my mother was telling me, yeah, you know, in the Northeast, the LTT Tigers, or no, that's in the South, whatever. In the Northeast, there was a major conflict going on at the time.
We'll fact check that and just
like I don't remember. It was a long time, but I just remember there was some kind of conflict that had risen up in the Northeast at the time. And my mother was like, my mother's a news junkie, so she was desperately trying to find news on that. And every channel we turned to was, and the mehendi has just been put on by this artist, and the gifts. And it's like, you know what? Congratulations to them. I wish them like happiness. This is 15 years ago. I still wish them happiness. But I was just like, I don't need to know and I don't care. Tell me what's happening in the Northeast of my country. And it's just gone worse. Like the whole Sushant Singh Rajput thing to me was like it was like a cancerous festering wound to try and explain exactly how broken our news channels are.
Exactly. See, for example, I still remember these BJP guy Nitesh Rane. Like he came up with this statement. Like if it was that's the boy right there.
It happened.
It happened. Talking to you about Nitesh Rane. So
He wants attention.
Lucifer, can you please? Thank you. I'll show you guys the hero of the moment later. Anyway, so I was telling you about this. Yeah, so he came up with this statement, which I don't know. Like, if you're this big minister and you come out with a statement that one of the deceased like close person, like the fiance of the deceased, told me that there's this whole murder conspiracy going on, like everything is going on. He has actually come to a news channel instead of going to the CBI or the police or the people in charge handling the case. I mean, even I haven't given my bar, but that's like common sense. Like if I have a clue on what has happened with like XYZ's murder,
investigating.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, right?
And then he went to a news channel, and the news channel has taken that statement. Again, I think people know very much what news channel I'm talking about.
Just say it now.
It's our Bharat. They've taken that statement, publicized it to the whole world, run with it, said this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth. That statement has not even gone to the CBI yet.
So the thing is, right, if we get into this, there are like 15,000 examples just from the past week that will just prove this point over and over again. Right? We all know it.
Fair enough.
Then the question then is like, how do we fix it?
I guess this is one of the ways to fix it.
What?
We discuss and we find out our own.
No. So
like, information and.
Well, that's just.
Take an initiative to give it out to people because maybe we can do a better job at it.
Could we? But then the thing is, right, at the end of the day, you can start a podcast, you can start a YouTube channel, you can do all sorts of things. But that's not going to compare to the reach of Republic TV.
Oh, never.
Never.
Even if we do get there, probably I'll get death threats.
Yeah. So, I mean, so then the question then becomes is like, look, you can't ignore that thing that is controlling so many hearts and minds. You can try and fix it.
What? I mean, the way I fixed it for myself was watching on mute. What do I tell people to do?
Well, here's the thing. You regulate it. Look, there is no, I mean, we in India, people don't realize this, but we are kings of regulations. Like try and get a government permit for literally anything. Anything. We are the king of regulations. We make regulations for the regulations. So why can't we make regulations for news media? Look, it already exists for print media, for newspapers. So what they did over there is they created an organization which it's an association which contains members of the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, the government, editors-in-chief of newspapers, retired journalists, all sorts of people from all facets of the newspaper industry, news industry, put them together and they use them to regulate newspapers and the information that comes out. For news channels, the only thing that exists is the NBA, not as interesting as the National Basketball Association. I'm not a sports person.
Yeah, but you're right.
It's a good guess. But it's the National Broadcasters Association. And so the NBA in India exists. It's a self-regulating agency. You've got editors-in-chief and head of networks of major news channels as part of the board. And they essentially are responsible of, if you have a complaint with the content of a news program or something, you submit your complaint to them and they look at it. So I looked into it because I was just like, in preparation for this and generally just understand, well, if they exist, why haven't they done it?
Because as you said, these news channel anchors have become like rock stars now.
Yeah.
They're like celebrities.
It doesn't matter if they're like celebrities. If a government organization exists that can control them, they still have to follow the rules. So I looked into.
Isn't that?
No. Okay. I looked into the NBA, and what I found out was they're basically two things. Like they can't actually do anything.
Yeah. Okay.
So to put it as an example, right? You run a news channel. You went on air and you said something that was patently false, wrong, inflammatory, blah 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 blah. I, concerned viewer, submitted a complaint to the NBA.
Yeah.
The max they could do is submit a censure to you saying that was wrong. You should go on air and apologize. And if you don't want to, that's fine. That is the extent of their power.
Wow. I mean, then what's the point of having a
And
body
here's
like
the thing, next level. So Arnab Goswami is sort of like at the center of this, always.
Always.
And so lots of complaints have gone against him, whether justified or not, make up your own mind.
There's currently he's also facing a suicide
That is a different issue altogether. We're not even going to get into that. It's an ongoing litigation. But basically, like lots of complaints have been gone against his program and the content of his program, not him in particular. Republic TV, to be specific. And he went to court. And if I have this right, which I think I do, he basically told the court, well, that's a voluntary organization. I don't want to be subject to them. And so he was like, we're a self-regulated industry, so I'm going to start my own association.
I have no words. What do you say to that?
I think this is what his lawyers submitted. Like, he's just going to start his own association with other channels. And they'll regulate themselves, and the NBA can regulate whoever wants to be regulated by the NBA. And so the NBA went to Parliament and went to the government and said, give us some power, make us the only authority, and give us some ability to regulate these channels.
I mean, honestly,
and that bill is still being debated.
It just makes me feel violent from inside.
That's the point. That means it's working.
Yeah. That's why it gets so many
And that is why
TRPs
people keep going back. It makes you feel something.
It makes you feel something. It makes your blood rush.
Yeah.
It actually does.
Because it's
And there's this technique that they use. They mute the person and suddenly and then let one person talk. It's so annoying, man. It's so annoying.
I don't understand why you need 10 people at one time.
Because then the blood rush won't come, I guess.
Because then you're all angry. You're watching them, you're angry. Arnab is angry. We're all just angry.
And I feel Arnab is trying to, portray himself. I think he wants to become the next Prime Minister of India, to be honest. That's, I think, what he's trying to do. Like, even when he got arrested, I remember taking a self-video, they're gonna kill me in the jail, they're gonna kill me in the jail. Saying all that stuff and then coming out of the jail.
I mean, in his defense, I will say, in his defense, they could have killed him in the jail, for all we know. There's a lot of people who love him passionately, and there's a lot of people who hate him passionately.
But to be very honest with you, I think the passion that he's showing to the center right now, the center wouldn't let him die that easy. To be very honest.
Well, yeah, he's planted his flag. I mean, I remember when those scooters came by, him and his wife, they tried to attack them or something.
Honestly, I felt I was so planted.
I don't know. No, but this is the essence of it. You don't know what's real and what's not.
Exactly, because honestly, see, I come from very a small area. I've lived in places where if somebody wanted to hit you, they would.
Okay.
No matter who the fuck you are. Like, especially in a crowded place, if somebody wants to smack you and just go,
This is why Delhi scares me.
they can just do it. And no, this is why I feel it can happen in one place, of course it can happen in the second place. And see, it's again this whole idea, oh, यहाँ पे तो ये होगा ही नहीं. No, because how is that idea there? Like, why is it there? यहाँ पे ऐसा क्यों नहीं हो सकता?
But anyway, the thing is, what is the solution? Like, to me, right, I really spent a lot of time thinking about it. And to me, the National Broadcasting Agency is sort of like this one place which sort of has the infrastructure and history, and if given the power, they can then go ahead and try and actually self-regulate the news media. So that's like one way of approaching it. And you populate them not with government cronies and MPs and Rajya Sabha members. You give them a voice. The government should have a voice. But at the same time, you also put in people who are the presidents or CEOs of broadcasting channels, who are retired journalists of great renown, who are retired news anchors. You put all of them together, and so when a complaint comes, they jointly deliberate and say, well, how far do you go in censuring, and give them the power to actually censure. The number one reason why what I'm suggesting can be very, very dangerous. Because, like there was, the best way to illustrate this is to look at this this YouTube video that was published by one of those online news channels that's gained a lot of popularity. I forgot what their name is. They had published a video where they had compared Xi Jinping to the rise of Hitler.
Okay.
And it was a very compellingly edited video. That's all I'll say about it. You can find it online if you want.
Okay.
And
we'll leave a link.
Basically, as soon as that video came out, the news broadcasters who had made the video came out and said, we've received calls from the Chinese embassy and they told us to take down that video. And like they were allegedly, nothing's proven, but they are claiming, the news people, the news channel people are claiming that they were basically told, take it down the next time you come to China, like this will not be forgotten. Like it was pretty much an overt threat. And that's because in authoritarian regimes, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, the minute you speak out, you're inviting that attention.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to speak, basically. The media exists only to amplify the voice of the center. That is for their purpose. So these central authority figures, whether it's Xi Jinping or whether it's Vladimir Putin, they're not used to the media not being on their side. So when they get criticized internationally in different media outlets, like in India, the way China got trashed during the we don't want to say war, more like skirmish.
It's still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on. It's still going on. But the way they were trashed in our media, as frankly they should be, because why would we uphold them in our own media?
They walked into our land.
Exactly.
We didn't go there.
So the point is, the way they were trashed and the way they were being attacked by the media, they were just, what is this? Like, how can they do this? Why are you allowing them to do this? And it's like, what do you mean allow? The media, the free press exists as many famous leaders and diplomats and presidents have called it. It is the fourth estate. So any democratic government has three major pillars, right? Monopoly. So you have the executive, you have the judiciary, you have the legislative. So you have the government, you have parliament, and you have the courts. And the fourth estate, which is not officially voted by, is the press.
Yeah.
Because the press holds everyone accountable.
It should.
That is its essential purpose.
Essential
That is why the press is so powerfully protected in democratic constitutions. Because the minute you control the press, any government can just take over and become an authoritarian. Because the minute the press stops calling them out, that is it.
And I think that's what is happening in our country as well right now. Our press is just so dominated by the
powers that be. Well, that's just it. To me, that is still. Look, it's not ideal. In an ideal Aaron Sorkin newsroom type world, the press would exist to just insult everyone. That's becoming rarer and rarer. Especially because now we don't identify news channels by the news or the programs, we identify them by the personalities. We don't say Republic TV, we think of Adam.
Adam Goswami, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You make a cult of personality always.
Like again, he's become
Which
like
is
a
what they
celebrity.
They become rock stars. They become
Yeah, they
celebrities.
become rock stars.
And you know, more power to them. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Fair enough.
But it's just like, so the news has sort of turned into a celebrity circus of its own.
Yeah.
So again, there are so many other things going on. You have powers that be, whether it's the Congress or the BJP influencing these celebrity news anchors. News of the day always being bent or slanted to a particular narrative. Having 20 people on that just scream at each other and make you angry and slightly confused by the end of it. And
Slightly?
and then you just start asking yourself like, well, what is real? What is actually happening? And to me, this sort of, I want to say, spiraling of disinformation or confusion emanating from the news is where social media news became such a big thing.
Yeah.
Because now any Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street with a smartphone can call himself or herself a journalist. They can just record, put it up, and say this.
I'm a journalist.
Okay. The thing is, right? For journalism, there is no requirement. Like, if you want to become a doctor, you have to get your medical license. Otherwise, if you call yourself a doctor, that is a crime. As lawyers, I had to get registered on the roll of solicitors in England.
I can't call myself a lawyer. I'm a law graduate. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all I am.
You hold a law degree.
Yeah.
I'm registered as a solicitor in England, and I had to work and I had to go through their requirements in order to get to that position. There's no similar requirement for journalism.
For journalism, yeah. If there is, then please let us know. But because even I don't know there isn't.
There isn't. You can get it.
You can study it.
You can study it.
You can get a diploma.
You can study anything.
Yeah.
But there's no sort of like central register where you're like, this person is a journalist.
Yeah. Like how all lawyers are registered.
We're all registered. All doctors are registered.
Yeah.
Dentists are registered. Professionals are chartered accountants. So there's no sort of requirement like that for journalists, that you have to meet these benchmarks in order to be a journalist. And so pretty much anybody can go ahead and call themselves journalists and say whatever the hell they want. And if they are charismatic enough, they'll garner an audience, I guess. Because today, you don't have to go on a news channel to build an audience.
Especially today, how that OTT has come up. YouTube has its own.
It's just YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube journalism is its own subculture.
Exactly.
In fact, now you have channels that are purely on YouTube.
Republic Bharat has come on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like they have, like I don't know, lakhs and lakhs of subscribers every day and viewers every day. Like those views, hits, whatever you get.
But then like that's the other thing. I can't imagine there are a lot of companies and advertisers that are willing to put their money behind channels that are so divisive. But then I guess the issue of it is like when you're divisive, right? You're not trying to get 100% of people to watch you. That's impossible. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Put 10 people in a room. If you get 2 of them to passionately only watch you, that's it. You're a gold winner.
Right. Fair enough.
You don't need 8, 9 or 10. You just need 2 to passionately watch you. That's enough to build
The rest
huge
are
audience.
just in and out, in and out, in and out.
And
That
that's
just
fine.
happens. That's like any restaurant also.
Yeah.
You need a few customers
Regulars.
that regularly come to you. Rest of them.
Like I turned to my mom once and I was like, why do you keep watching him? Like my opinions on him aside, like, what are you even getting out of this? And she literally just told me like, shh. It's just, I've been doing this for like 10 years now or whatever.
Like an hour of entertainment. Yeah.
It's just, it goes on. She'll sometimes go, she'll do her sewing or she'll like chat.
Like
with
it's
her
background
friends.
noise for her.
It's literally just white noise at some point. She's like, you have to know what's going on. I was like, but do you know what's going on?
They don't know what's going on.
Like,
I'm pretty sure they don't know what's going on.
I am convinced that the people he brings on, they do know what's going on. They don't have an opportunity to tell you.
Because half of the time they're on mute.
Half?
Like as soon as they get to the point, they're like, let me tell you something.
And then he starts screaming, and the minute he starts screaming, I'm just like, I can't do this.
So basically, whenever he starts screaming, I think like, okay, he's rebooting everything. He like, oh shit, you look point tak pahunch rahe hain, abhi time pura nahi hua hai, 0 se start karo. So let me start.
If you go to like news broadcasters and professional journalists, in 20, 30 years when we showed them a recording of what he's doing. And let's just not bash on him. What any of these opinion hosts do,
Yeah.
go to the US, you look at a lot of those Fox News hosts, you even look at MSNBC hosts like Rachel Maddow, and the way they get like super emotional and super into it. They would just be like, these are not journalists.
These are not journalists. Yeah.
These are not news reporters.
I remember, watching BBC and all that stuff in the 90s. It was
Dry.
It was totally different. It was. Yeah, today it's actually like a serial.
It is.
You get excited.
It's
Oh,
entertaining.
whoa.
So then, to me, it exists in an ecosystem now where it's all feeding off of each other. And I think what's happening is it is genuinely, like the thing is, even if you watch it knowing that this is not true, you don't even realize how subconsciously it's affecting your opinions and it's changing. And if you don't bombard yourself with alternative viewpoints that challenge you without making you violently angry, you're not going to have a balanced opinion on things. I mean, I'm not trying to say that you and I sitting here are above bias. We're not. We're human beings. We have our biases. But I always make it a point that if I feel one way, I have to go and seek out someone who feels different. If I feel really strongly about something. Because if I can't hold my views against someone who feels the complete opposite, then there's something wrong in the foundation of what I believe.
Yeah, then you don't really believe in it.
That's just it.
It's just in your head as information, and because it's the only information, you're like, okay, fine, I'll believe it.
But today you have like 50 news channels, just throwing a number out there, and they all have their own agendas. And when you're watching it, you're constantly just like, but is it real? Is it not? Is this? Is that? Is this? Is that? And then you have social media news, which we haven't really touched upon.
Yeah.
You have social media news where people can literally put up anything they want and say that this is true. I mean, there are literally bots, like bot factories in Russia that just churn out disinformation. This disinformation has been linked with why Hillary Clinton lost her election.
6.5 billion fake profiles, every year on Facebook.
Yeah.
So that interview you were telling me about, I was watching it last night. I was like, what? 6.5 billion?
I don't know if it's billion.
Billion.
Wow.
6.5 billion fake profiles are made every year, which were directly Hillary Clinton, associated to Hillary, Russia influencing.
So like, I was watching an interview of Hillary Clinton with Howard Stern, which is freely available on YouTube for anybody who wants to check out fascinating stuff. And she talked about, one of the segments, she talked about how like the disinformation screwed her over because there were all these hundreds of articles that came out on Facebook telling people
about those email scandal and some
email
stuff.
for one side. The thing that really moved people was the fact that all these fake news articles came out that the Pope had endorsed Trump. Right?
Wow.
Right?
Thanks God I didn't read all of those. I would have been
But
a
the
Trump
thing
guy.
is, like, if you're like a middle-aged housewife somewhere in the interior of
You
the country
find
and
out
you're really
the
God-fearing,
Pope is
as
actually
endorsing Trump, that's going to affect your decision making.
Yeah, it would affect mine also.
Yeah.
I'm not a very like godly.
You're not even Catholic. But
Yeah, like I don't believe in
Also,
all that
because this Pope,
much.
the current one, he's like really cool.
But that, yeah, he is. I've seen like again, thanks to YouTube, we get to see like these guys. But yeah, he's a
But
fun
so
guy.
like that sort of disinformation played such a huge factor. The same thing happened with Brexit in the UK. I was living and working in the UK when Brexit happened. That is a whole can of worms. Like I had the months leading up to it, the kind of racial attacks and stuff that were happening. Like, oh God, I remember I got a call in the office one day. My roommate, so I lived with two Italians, so a bit of a sidebar. My roommates were both Italian guys, and three of us had been living together for like a year and a bit. And he called me up and he said, "Listen, when you're done with work, can you come to the police station?" And I was like, "What the hell did I do? I didn't do anything." And he was just like, "No, it's not that. It's like, so basically we lived in this building where it was mostly Europeans and a few internationals like me. And on the top floor, or the second to top floor, was this one like proper British guy who lived there, and the rest was all Europeans and internationals. The whole building was like that. And basically, the day after the Brexit vote, the one British guy in our building made signs, and he went and stuck them on everybody's door, saying, "Britain has voted, get out." Right.
Oh fuck. Then?
Like, oh God. I had to go in because I mean I didn't.
Like, you must have told the building guys out. Like,
Yeah, so
shit,
like the
because
whole building
can't
was-
get into a fight over there, with especially somebody who's thinking like that.
It was just like, what the hell? And like, I genuinely had to ask myself, I was like, how did this man come to the decision and the realization that if Britain is suffering today, it's because of all the immigrants? I mean, the same thing happened in America. And I realized it's because of disinformation in the news, like that.
No,
I mean,
why
it's
not actually go
it's-
and write things on a placard and paste it like to
I mean,
that point will drive you to
to
doing
me,
something like that.
There's obviously an underlying xenophobia. There's an underlying like hatred for people who are different or ignorance towards it. There's racism, whatever you want to call it. That is obviously there on the underlying level, that base instinct. But when you live in an ecosystem where you're constantly the best way to explain it is the YouTube algorithm. If you click on one thing, you get 10 suggestions that are similar. And if you go, you'll go into a very specialized rabbit hole that is designed just for you.
Yeah.
And that is what you will fall into. Sometimes it's a great thing. Like, you know what? I don't mind getting 200 videos on BTS. At 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night, like, I don't mind spending like an hour just watching 7 boy band guys like laugh. But if instead you're going down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories or
Once you click on them, then they just bombard you. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but fuck it.
It's your
Made me
channel, do what you
anxious.
want.
Made me so anxious. But and one thing I know, dude, like me is okay. People who work for me, people like they're not as educated or as open or like for example, if I want to sell them a phone, all I need to do is make a nice video, show it to them and say it's an amazing phone, buy it. Maybe it might be the shittiest phone.
No, let me give you
Selling them ideas is very easy. That's
let
what
me give you an even better example of that idea.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my mother, I mention her a lot because when this topic comes up, she's like an intense news junkie.
Yeah.
When the whole China thing was going on, she used to just keep coming to me, like, we're gonna go to war. There's gonna be nuclear war. It's happening. And I'm just like, please go back to your YouTube work, stop bothering. And so she was like so in it, like so fired up. And there was a cleaning boy who was like cleaning up her room or whatever, and she turned to him and she just started telling him about China, about the war, about everything that's happening, about them taking our land. And she told him this whole thing, like she chewed his brains out for 30 minutes because my sister and I were just like, we can't listen to this all day, every day, you're driving us mad. And that guy was so fired up. He was like, भाभी मेरे को बताओ वो कहाँ है, मैं ट्रेन में बैठ के जाता हूँ, दिखाता हूँ उनको भारत क्या चीज़ है. And I'm just like, I was like, props to mom. She's clearly an orator. I hope she never becomes a dictator.
Well, I hope she does. At least she'll make people do what she wants.
The only reason I feel she wouldn't become a dictator is just sheer laziness. Because like you have to get up and go do things. And she's just like, I feel like doing things on Monday and Tuesday, but like by Wednesday I need a lie.
I think 50% of us would have been like, billionaires if we weren't lazy. Like, I'm just saying, in our own heads at least.
Yeah. So like, my solution is give the NBA some teeth. Let them actually regulate. I'm not saying that there's an easy solution because you are curtailing the free press the minute you do that. You are saying there is someone, there's a big brother over the news, over the press saying, control them in this way. And then the next thing is controlling social media news. But that is something that's really, it is something that can only be imposed if the government says, hey, social media sites, big juggernauts, the Facebooks, the WhatsApps, which is owned by Facebook. So basically just Mark Zuckerberg saying, hey Mark, like do us a solid bro and like regulate yourself.
Regulate yourself.
And
like how the antitrust Congress session was held.
To give you a little background on that, it's ramping up more and more. And so what's happened is all these attorneys general in the US across multiple states have all banded together and started an antitrust lawsuit. They call it antitrust in the US.
Yeah.
We call it competition in the UK and therefore here as well and across Europe.
Like anti-monopoly.
It's anti-monopoly law
Yeah.
at its core, and basically because Facebook has the monopoly. Facebook controls social media
So
in that.
in that antitrust meeting, I remember one of the congressmen actually put up this thing. So before Mark Zuckerberg actually bought Instagram, they have emails to each other, like a full like dialogue where Mark Zuckerberg actually says to the Instagram guy that you sell us your company, not in these words. I'll put it in the link. That you give us the company because we're already developing your software, so you rather just sell it to us now. So strong arming other companies. He did it with Snapchat, he did it with Instagram. So they developed that very software, and they went up to them and they said, "Sell yourselves to us, or like we can just go ahead
Let's be
and become your."
honest, they didn't exactly sell it in undervalue.
Fair enough, they did. They didn't, like, if they would have, then it would have been a bigger scam, I guess. And I guess Facebook could have gotten like screwed over that.
Look, the screwing over part is actually going to happen now. So the discussions that have happened so far in the US Congress involving Mark Zuckerberg when he was brought in, that was more about the disinformation part of it, how Facebook is not regulating
Not
itself,
regulating.
and claiming further that leave us be, don't interfere, we'll manage it ourselves.
Mhm.
And our way of managing it is to let it just run wild.
Yeah.
It's the Wild Wild West, and the government sort of came in and said no, because as a result of this, you had Russian interference, and that's why the election and blah 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 blah. It was a very political thing. What's happening now, which is ramping up now, is they are starting these investigations into Facebook to say like you've become too big. And it's not just Facebook; they're doing the same thing with Google as well. I believe.
Google, they're doing it with Apple, they're doing it with a bunch of them.
Amazon as well.
Amazon
I
as well.
think
Yeah,
Amazon.
yeah. Amazon. No, yeah, he was in the.
So the point is because these guys have become too big, they control too much. Like for example, with Google, they actively make sure that other search engines can't come up to a point where they can be a rival. Facebook is doing the same thing. The minute something could come up to be a rival, today WhatsApp by Facebook, Instagram by Facebook, Snapchat by Facebook. The minute you start coming up and gaining some prominence, they just pick you up.
Yeah.
And why not? You get a big cash out, you're a company, you want to make money for your shareholders, and you walk off. But Facebook is getting all of this done, and they're basically controlling the entire ecosystem. And it then becomes an issue of, as far as social media disinformation is concerned, you enter this really legally complicated space where you're basically telling a private company, we the government are telling you this is how you need to regulate yourself if you want to continue operating within our borders.
Now, and that becomes a problem when the company itself is so big. It is so big, it is actually probably bigger than your government.
There you go. It is bigger than a lot of smaller countries' governments for sure. And then, there are places like, I remember in Myanmar, I had a lady, when I lived in Singapore, there was this lady who lived down the hall from me, and she was Myanmari. Whenever we spoke, and she told me point blank, she gets all her news from Facebook. And the minute that sort of became a trend, you had that huge Rohingya crisis. And I'm not saying one necessarily related to the other, but the humanitarian crisis that happened with the Rohingya people in, I don't know if I pronounce Rohingya people in Myanmar. The amount of disinformation that was being spread over Facebook to foment the hate that already existed in a lot of people's hearts, was to bring it out and bring out the baser instincts and bring it to the surface. That is something that needs to be controlled.
Yeah,
because
but think about it. As you said, that hate is already there, and these companies or these platforms are now available to everyone. So like it can be used for good and bad. So who regulates it? Imagine if Hitler was living today, he would probably be the ruler of the world already.
So then the thing is, right, who regulates it? Right now they're regulating themselves, because obviously legislation is always behind innovation.
Yeah, end of that day, like if you think about it, even what we are doing right now today is telling people, okay, fine, get your information from wherever, but don't trust it blindly. Like, that's one thing we are trying to do. And if you connect these two things, like when you become powerful, it's your responsibility to keep yourself like
Stanley, with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. Well, I mean, couldn't put it in any better way. I guess in conclusion, for me, I don't see an easy conclusion to this, other than that, yes, now we know that what we are told is a perspective of somebody's
With an agenda.
With an agenda. So it's I guess it falls on the consumer to a point that how do you want to absorb it?
And also that it's very easy, especially if you are a person who gets a lot of your news through social media, which is happening more and more. You are very, very quickly going to fall into an ecosystem that is just an echo chamber of your own beliefs.
Oh yeah. Right.
And so that is you become a victim of the algorithm. And so it becomes very easy to believe what you think because everybody around you is just echoing the same thing over and over again. And you just think anybody who disagrees with you is obviously a minority. And so it emboldens you.
Yeah.
Look, people who have more violent tendencies, whether you look at what happened in Delhi, whether you look at the US Capitol riots, whether you look at Brexit, whether you look at the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar, various complicated geopolitical issues underpinning each of those crises, true. But they all have this common factor of disinformation that has been going on not recently, but for years and years and years. Where people are falling into echo chambers where they just believe what they believe because everybody surrounding them believes the same thing and are voicing it loudly and repeatedly over and over again. And because they keep believing that, they then get more and more emboldened. And the point of a government has always been to try and bring out the best in people. Right? Malcontents, people who believe in violence, evil, whatever you want to call it, they've always existed. But good governments, stable governments with successful civilizations have managed to at least calm those malcontents down enough so that the rest of the people can go on with
Keep
the
it in
business.
a balance.
Keep it in a balance.
Keep it in balance.
That is getting very imbalanced. And you see it with the rise of white supremacy in America, you see it with the rise of Hindu nationalism in India, and the kind of communal hatred and division we see all over our country today that is much, much worse than anything we've seen in the past. At least that's what I see it as. And you see that everywhere. You see that in democratic countries everywhere, secular countries everywhere, these issues are cropping up and becoming major, major issues.
It's so weird. Like sometime back, I was having a conversation on these farmer reforms only, like with a few friends of mine, and some of their thinking was like, so to a point, I was like, these many thousand farmers die every year. One of them said, so what? They die every year, right? So it's a normal thing. This riot happened. I was again speaking to my friends. Bro, 83 cops hurt. I'm like, isn't that now a normal thing? Because 7,000 people die every year. For you guys, like, why are you feeling pain on this? Do you know them personally? Like, no. Like, you didn't even know the farmers personally. So why you like, why is your pain so targeted towards only one, like, sect of it? Because again, that's the way they get their information. They've been told certain people don't matter, certain people matter. Like, and I'm not saying those 83 people who got injured, like, dude, I feel bad about it. And I feel bad about the whole thing that happened. But I feel worse about how we choose to feel bad about some people for some situations and then just neglect the other situation. And again, it's not us. We're being fed into that. Like,
we're being fed a story. It's a packaged, it's literally a news package. That's what they call
it. Package.
And they're giving you a package and they want you to feel a certain way, whether that's when the music crescendos at one particular thing or someone starts. That is what it is. It's manipulation. It's subconscious manipulation.
Yeah, like the background sounds have become like a major thing, major weapon in their hands now. They've learned it from the movies.
The most overt example is when, there was a time when I was like 12, 13, I used to go to my nani's house a lot. My nani, like all nanis, watched all the TV series. Yeah. Now, of course, we have Turkish programming in Hindi dubbing, so she's got better looking people to look at, in her opinion. But I used to sit with her.
Programs are very similar to ours. Just
so she was watching her Hindi serial, Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabulti, Kasauti Zindagi, whatever was going on.
Those names, man.
I love it. All the caves.
The name.
The kingdom of the caves. And like she once said to me, she was like, so now, I was like, Nani, this lady has been slapped once, but they did like
yeah, like 5-6 cameras.
Yeah. Like, and that same thappad you saw 6 times, then you saw everyone's reaction to that thappad, and that was the entire sequence until we got to the next commercial break. And she said, so that's how that particular thappad was extremely dramatically important. Because if it was just 3 repeats and reactions, then it was like a run-of-the-mill this week's thappad, which will be yesterday's news by next week.
Yeah.
But if the thappad went on, and the reactions went on, and there were multiple thappads with multiple replays and multiple reactions, then you know they really wanted to focus on this
Yeah.
particular
And
thappad.
you'll remember it for the next
And
20
you will
days.
remember the
This
thappad.
thappad mara.
And just in case you forget, they will show you this thappad again with all the reactions and the replays in flashback sequences.
I think amen to that. Amen to that. Oh
And
my
so
god,
that
how
to
we
me
used to do that.
is what like the news media is.
Has
It
become
is-
today.
It is slapping you.
Yeah. It is slapping you again and again and telling you to react.
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 And then
Yeah.
you get angry people on Twitter yelling, and that's great. Which is why I use Twitter only to like follow other writers and like people I think who only put out messages of positivity. Because I'm just like that's what I want more in my life.
Yeah.
I want like screaming Neanderthals like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just watch like one war scene from Lord of the Rings and you'll be happy. And if you want to watch screaming Neanderthals.
Orcs everywhere.
I mean, I guess that's what these guys have become to us. I mean, to me at least when I watch them.
Yeah, and like so that trend you see it on YouTubers providing news as well. Like it's all
I see more YouTubers reacting to the news these days. Like, you know,
this
they're
whole
like,
react business is like a whole topic in itself.
yeah,
Like I get it, everything is a reaction. I don't want us to sit here and say we're not reacting.
we
to
are
it.
also reacting, yeah.
But literally, like you have people minting money just sitting there going like,
Giving reaction videos and those thumbnails, those baity thumbnails they put. Like,
I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm about.
I don't
I
put it
brush.
myself too, but I'm just saying that this is where the world is right now, and it's just kind of weird.
The
Like,
react stuff has got nothing to do with what we were talking about. Yeah.
But yeah.
So in conclusion, it's fucked.
Yeah.
I think news channels need a
No,
regulation.
but I do really like your regulation suggestion.
I think that's the only way. Look, it has to be a
If-
start. I don't think it will be popular.
If we can keep that regulating body also regulated, like
With
in
teeth.
check,
With teeth.
with teeth. But
But-
no, but the problem is the moment you give them teeth, they become corrupt. That's the problem. So we have to somehow navigate that issue as
But
well.
that's just it. If you think of it that way, there are lots of organizations that are regulated, lots of industries that are regulated. You have, the transport industry has its own. The telecommunications authority exists. The print newspapers have their own authority, which should be what the NBA should aim to mirror. Which they themselves submitted papers to say like we should be given the power to mirror that. And their whole thing is like, don't fill them up with people who are cronies of one particular entity, whether that's parliament or the government or whatever. Have representatives from everywhere.
Everywhere.
And you get balanced decisions. You may not always get just decisions in your opinion, but you will get
What
balanced
is just?
opinions.
You don't
What
get
is
just decision in the court, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, why do you hire lawyers? To make the court come towards your side. Why do you hire the best lawyers? So they can influence the court towards your side, make them listen to your stuff. So end of the day, nothing is just. And like you have to fight for your justice. Like like rights are like they're like muscles. You don't work out, your muscles go away. Like there's no such thing as rights.
Yeah.
When people say you have rights, I'm like shut up. You don't have no rights. Like
No.
you make your rights.
No, you do have rights. You do
Honestly,
have certain
in a
fundamental
family, if
rights.
you grow up like a family of 6, you have 3 brothers and like 2 parents and 1 sister or whatever. Over there also you have to fight for your rights.
I don't see it.
You're not.
No.
if-
That's a different thing. There you're asserting yourself or you're choosing not to assert yourself.
But that's the thing, right? If you don't assert yourself, you're not gonna get your rights.
No, you still have your rights.
You're gonna get looked over.
No. You still have your rights. You're choosing not to use them. That's a different.
I say that's not having rights.
No, you making a conscious choice not to exercise your rights for whatever reasons. That's your choice. Circumstances may make it very difficult for you to use your rights, but then not using them is a choice. I don't know what that has to do with it.
Well, it's an interesting point.
Okay.
It's an interesting point.
Alright.
I mean, it might not have to do with something like that. I mean, it might
So,
be useful for somebody to
News channels, maybe the NBA, maybe there may be other things that will come up. There are smarter people out there who probably have better solutions. Social media to me is the only thing that has to really be brought to heel. sooner rather than later. I think
Yeah.
that is a much more dangerous outlet.
Definitely, definitely.
And-
Social media has to be regulated. Like these companies have to regulate, like they have to develop their own algorithms that.
No, basically governments have to come in because they're never going to do it. You have to have government saying if you want to keep functioning here, you have to do this.
Yeah, they have to get like some
Hard stops and be like this you have
That's
to
so
follow.
true.
And it's not like it's impossible. In Korea they're doing it. In South Korea, not North Korea. But in South Korea
In
they're
North
doing
Korea, I
it.
guess everything is regulated.
But in South Korea
you can't walk that fast. Walk slow.
they are doing it. I don't know the exact details, but I know that internet companies do make an effort to sift out inflammatory or hateful content, stuff that falls into hate speech.
Sintra. So this program that was developed by Facebook. Now, so for example, you're on Facebook. Now you go on any other app through Facebook. It is looking at you, Sintra.
It's already looking at you.
It's already looking at you. It's looking at what you're typing, what you're searching.
Every keystroke.
Every keystroke, everything. So they have all the information. If these privatized companies they really want to, and the government really does put this thing on them, they already have the technology to, cut out the people who, the mob mentality.
And then the question becomes, should anybody have that kind of power to influence someone in that way? Even if you're someone who is prone to being radicalized to whatever issue, and you are bound to go in that way, should a third party company or government have the right to come in and say, no, we're going to regulate you so that you can't go there and you have to go, and we're going to redirect you to content that is more approved than this more incendiary stuff.
Again, then I guess that part where you said you have to have people from every sphere in that body that regulates.
Yeah, but then,
Otherwise, then that body will become
but
in
then,
itself a
but then the
problem.
question becomes like, regardless of what happens there, you as an individual, if you want to watch that incendiary content as a free individual in a free democratic country, shouldn't you be able to? As long as you're not
should be able to.
perpetuating
That's
acts of
where my
violence.
solution comes in, where we spoke about it. That today these guys have become like celebrities,
We're talking about news.
Yeah, we're talking about news
I'm
only.
talking about social media.
Even these social media guys, like I'm coming back to the news for like a minute. Like these guys have become like celebrities, and I agree with the fact like if I want to listen to like say an hour debate where they're just abusing and shouting at each other, I should be allowed to, because again I live in a free world and that's kind of something I should get. But at the same time, it's my responsibility to understand what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Like understand, like again, that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do with you over here today, is like tell people that okay, do watch whatever you want to watch, but know what you're watching.
But see, here's the concern with social media and the other things we were discussing, where if the government start telling Mark Zuckerberg or whatever that you have to filter out this kind of content. And if you're someone who wants to watch that type of content, should you have a right? Or should the company and the government have a right to say, no, we're not going to let you?
See, again, I guess it will depend on what topics.
Because then it
Because
takes away the
see,
choice,
see,
right? It
there are
takes away what you're trying to do, which is watch whatever you want, make up your own mind, be informed. How can you watch whatever you want when they're taking away content? Which hasn't happened, but it.
But that's the whole point. Watch whichever you want. But right now, whatever is on is like the same thing which is being regulated or being told. Okay, show this, show
That's
this,
just an
show this.
algorithm. These companies themselves are not in control of the algorithm. The algorithm exists for one purpose only, to keep you on the site, whatever it is.
So this question was raised to the Google CEO, and the congressman specifically said, according to a whistleblower, that this algorithm was made for the consumers to come into their thing and make them more money.
Yeah.
Basically. So these guys did create this algorithm and they can regulate it. They can regulate it, because if it's an AI which is not regulated and it is in the open network, then rather we are living in the Terminator
I think they're
era.
already there.
Like your machines are gonna rise up. Like I'm pretty sure they can control it, and they should. And to the point where you're saying, keep, as a consumer, you should be again allowed to make up your own mind. Yes. And I guess that's where we come in, because these days consumers are coming on these platforms where we hope to influence them in a way that, buddy, what you're being shown is not the ultimate truth. Like, just like remove that
That's just
curtain
it.
out of your eyes. Like what you're watching, agreed, fine. Watch the news for the news. Now that person has become a celebrity for you, so he says something and you become like, oh, this is what has happened. So don't be like that. I guess
That is the main
main
question.
question
Don't
or
stop
solution or whatever you want to
Don't
say.
take what anybody has to say as gospel.
And that's like, it's like how some people say God is there. Like, and I ask them, how dare you say that? Like, if he was there, like, just think about it. Somebody so all powerful, would he ever be like, won't he ever come out of the curtain to show his people that who he is? Like, it's something like that. I wouldn't go there and say, oh, don't believe in God or anything. Like, that's a whole different biblical topic. But let's like,
Theological, shall I say.
yeah, but that's how these guys have become today. They've become gods in like people's eyes, and when they say something, and that's the reality. That's
No,
what
I mean,
happened.
that's how it's always been though with human society. There are always people who
Well, we
influence
are
us.
primates. Our precursor comes from the apes, and in the ape society, it was like it is always like has been that they used to choose the most bigger, and the guy who takes care of them as the king of the apes, and like from that's our precursor, and that's how the whole idea of God and the notion of God came into the human society. We're studying at length about it. I'll leave in the description the book that I'm actually studying on this. So if you guys want to check it out, please go ahead. And so again, these are certain precursors set, and today in that modernized world, idols have changed. Like now, for example, this news guy, people think, oh, if he wasn't there, we would be living in the dark. Like so he's our light, he's our guiding light. I just want people to stop thinking like that.
Yeah.
Because that's risky. That's where like
Or rather, just turn on a lot of lights at the same time. Have we driven the metaphor to the ground yet?
I think so.
Just turn on a lot of lights.
Yeah, that's possible. But you know what? I really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise.
There was so many things I learned, so many
Same.
and so many ideas got reinforced, today, like maybe like, okay, some were like, oh, maybe that's not how I should think, or maybe that's how I'm thinking, oh, the other person also thinking. So it was
Fun
it was a fun time. It was a fun time. Thanks for being here, talking to me.
loved it.
And I hope I can have you in more episodes, as many as like we can be. I really enjoy talking to you.
It's always fun.
I love to pick your brain on some other topics.
Let's pick something a little less expansive next time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know, let's talk about like Deepika Padukone again.
For sure.
Like, not about her career or her looks or anything. Like, let's just like talk about her as like a person.
Probably.
Like, as understood from celebrity magazines and online gossip channels.
Fair
Who is this person?
I know one thing for sure. She goes out for a walk with a tube like in the evenings in the garden, and Arnab hates it. And he thinks like she speaks to Daud at that time. I like had a chit chat.
I'm gonna say this with love. You need an intervention. You can't even talk about Deepika without bringing up Arnab. Like, it's Deepika Padukone.
saw so much
She is-
and Deepika together.
She is one of the most. She is like the most Indian looking beauty that has come around in a very long time.
Fair
Don't bring up Arnab.
Yeah, he's an Indian beauty too, if you think about it. A lot of people love it.
The people who live only turn on one light.
Fair enough. Please turn on all the lights. Let the darkness go away. No, but this was good. I think we should.
Yeah,
We're
let's
probably
wrap it up.
doing it again. And thanks for watching.
इसके लिए आप लोगों को धन्यवाद। आज फिर वार्ता चल रही छठे सातवें दौर की हो गई, सातवें दौर की वार्ता चल रही। हमें उम्मीद है कुछ न कुछ हल निकलेगा। हमने यह देख ली बातचीत आप लोगों के चेहरे पे हर रोज नई ताजगी देखने को मिल रही। इसके लिए मतलब हम उस दिन पे हमें अगले दिन यहाँ से और ज्यादा विशाल जनसमूह इकट्ठा हो। आप लोग किसी भी बात का आप लोग पीछे नहीं हो। सबसे बड़ी तो यही बात है, आप लोगों की जीत होगी, खूब बढ़िया जीत होगी। आप लोगों का मान सम्मान, पूरा मान सम्मान बचेगा। सरकार ने हर तरह के हथकंडे अपना लिए, पर आप लोगों के जोश और जब जगह आगे वे सब ढीले पड़ रहे। कई कई तरह के आरोप लगाए थे। क्या आप लोग देख रहे होंगे, 2-3 दिन तक जो इस पार्टी के आदमी है, उन्होंने कुछ नरम रूप कर लिया।